22. Thanks, Marshall. I'm Aviva Gold. I'm the board president, and welcome to our second virtual annual meeting. I'm hoping it's our last. Those in-person meetings are a lot more fun, although there is something convenient about being able to do this from your own home. Everybody has joined muted, but as we're going along, feel free to pop any questions in the chat or raise your hand. Maggie and Lane will be watching for that, as will I, as will all of us. And if we're not catching it, or you're not able to do that for some reason, you can also feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and just ask questions. And if that gets a little crazy, then we'll ask to go about a different way. But I think with our group this size, that should work out fine. I'm going to ask for all of you who can or who are able to make sure your first and last name are in the little name section there. If you can do that, because there will be drawings at the end for some co-op swag. Other than that, I think, if we end up having some internet trouble, we may have to go to just to no video, but I think we'll be pretty good. We'll see how it goes. Oops, here we go. Oh, that's how that works. So here we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you want me to, yeah, we need to accept the minutes from our last annual meeting last year. So if we could, the minutes were posted on the co-op website. So there should have been a link there for people to review them. And so someone, if we could get a motion to approve and then a second, we could vote on that. Anybody?
I'll move to approve the.
Oh, okay.
And I'll second.
And Katie second. Okay. All in favor of approving last year's annual meeting minutes, say aye. Or show of hands. Any opposed? Okay. None opposed. Okay. Well, motion passes then.
Well, that's excellent. So we've
Good.
already accomplished the first thing on the agenda. Thank you, Megan. Just for the rest of the evening, we're going to go through our present our annual report, which consists of reports from the committees, general manager, finance, and updating on the relocation expansion project. And then we'll vote on accepting that, and then we will conclude with our elections. When we do this meeting in person, you do have the opportunity to vote in person all the way up through sometime in this meeting. That is still available to you. I did forget to put that link in the chat. Is there anyone on the call that still wants to vote? Okay, Shelley, is that you? Okay. I will get, Megan, can you or somebody put the link to vote in the chat?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I can do that. I think.
Okay. So anyone who does that during this meeting, your vote will be counted. It will be provisional until Vanessa can verify it later at a later time. I don't think she'll be able to do it live in this meeting, but it will get counted and incorporated into the final tally towards the end. Okay, so speaking of the elections, Katie, can you confirm that we have enough votes for quorum?
Yes, we do. We have 132 votes and we needed 100 for quorum. So we have met quorum.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And Megan, do we have a quorum of board members? I don't know that there's any board business that we'll be doing, but just to be sure. I think we do. Okay, so that's what we got going. I know this format is a little bit dry, so we do have provided by board members Kim Yukich and Deb Massell a little bit of trivia just to kind of break it up a little bit. So this is the first trivia question. What is the most expensive spice in the world by weight? Is it A, grains of paradise, B, Madagascar vanilla beans, C, Himalayan yak stump lichen, or D, saffron? And so, yep, you can respond as you go. Won't be any necessarily prizes for getting all the right answers, but it's just for fun. Okay.
Third one a thing. I'm voting for that one just because I like it.
Are there going to be coffee questions later? There's a special coffee bean that goes through the digestive system of a marsupial.
True.
It's true.
But yeah, I think I've seen that Himalayan yak stump lichen in the bulk bins at the co-op. Anyway, I think, is that the, do we have enough there? Oops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share the results.
Share the results there. Okay, it looks like most of us did pick D, saffron, which is the correct answer, nicknamed red gold. It can cost between $500 and $5,000 per pound. And I have here in that only 3 stigmas per flower, and you have to pick 170,000 flowers to make a pound of saffron. That is insane. Okay.
Crazy.
Okay. So moving along, theoretically, we already did this. We accepted the minutes from the from last year's board meeting. So we are really cruising through this. Okay, next up is our governance committee report. And just for those of you who aren't familiar with the governance committee, this is a really important committee. It's kind of the heart and soul of policy and in running the co-op. They do a lot of work around recruiting board members, making sure that vote is copacetic, following all of our legal obligations and the co-op's guidelines, making sure that membership is represented. And they also do, like if there's going to be a big change in the co-op, that starts with governance, like when we adopted our ends policy, or when we decided that we needed a staff member on board. All of those kinds of big things start with governance. So really important committee. If you're interested in that kind of work, I urge you to stick your name in the chat and we will snatch you right up. Anyway, Katie McLaughlin is the vice president of the board and the chair of this committee, and will give us a report on 2021 governance work.
Thank you, Aviva. That was a nice rundown of governance committee. It's not the most glamorous committee by any means, but the work is very, very important. We had a pretty light year in 2021, partially because I had a baby and I was out for a few months, but we were still able to accomplish a few big goals. As you mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, this is our second year doing a virtual annual meeting. And last year there were a few hiccups, and I think this year we solidified a few best practices. And I'm going to echo Aviva's sentiment that hopefully this is the last year that we have to do this virtual, but just in case there's a year 3, we know what we're doing now, which is great. Earlier in the year, we appointed Camille Frazier, David Bradford, and David Katz to board positions. And they've all been very strong board members. We're very happy to have them aboard. Now we are nominating Lauren Smith and Erica Lee for today's election. Lauren is the Director of Nutrition Services for St. Lawrence Health. She's a registered dietitian, and I just learned an ultra runner, which is awesome. As a very much non-runner, I so much respect Lauren. That's wonderful. Lauren has been shopping in the co-op pretty much her whole life. And we're really excited. She, as the Director of Nutritional Services, she has a lot of information about finances as they relate to food. So she's going to be a very strong board member, especially as we're trying to grow into our new space. So we're excited. And Erica is pretty new to the region. She got here last year. We're very happy to have her. She's Assistant Professor of Professional Communications at Clarkson. Her research and her teaching is focused on food as it relates to gender, social justice, and she has actually taught a few food-themed classes based on civic engagement and building sustainable relationships with food, especially as it relates to gender and body acceptance. And she's just, she's going to be a dynamic new board member, and we're so excited to have you, Erica. So welcome to Lauren and Erica. We're very excited about both of you joining our board. We were also able to define goals for 2022. Some of those goals include enhancing the onboarding experience for new board members, updating our board prospect list. That's a list of potential board members that we pull from during the year. And so if anybody on this call is interested in joining the board, or you know someone you think would be a strong board member, I would love to talk to you or talk to your friend about joining. And I have more information about that as always. And then we added Camille Frazier, one of our newer board members, to the committee, and she's been such a dynamic and strong committee member. And Camille, we're so excited to have you on governance. And that is the governance report.
Thanks, Katie. I wouldn't call that a super light year myself, but did anyone have any questions for Katie before we move along? And don't worry if you have a question later, you can always pipe up. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So moving along. It's another trivia question. What is the only food that can never go bad? Is it Limburger cheese? Is it kombucha? Is it honey? Is it lutefisk, which is preserved whitefish pickled in lye?
Aviva, I didn't see that fourth option on the poll.
Oh,
You don't
Really?
see all four?
somebody
Yeah.
voted for it, so it's got to be up there.
If something's already bad, can it go bad?
Oh, Dave, you stole my joke.
All right, looks like we got 21 of 27 people. That's good enough, right? And I'll go ahead and share the results.
Honey. Got most people big time. Who's drawing all over this screen?
Not
It wasn't me. Just say that.
really.
Yeah,
Not me.
really. Really? Okay. Anyway, yes, the answer is honey. It's low in water and high in sugar content, so bacteria doesn't grow in it. It's also acidic and contains small amounts of hydrogen peroxide formed from an enzyme when the nectar is regurgitated from the bee itself, which inhibits the growth of microbes. And although I knew that the answer to this question was honey, I did not know all that other stuff. Okay, thanks everybody. That's fun. Moving along. Okay, next is the annual report from the Outreach and Marketing. Well, it's our Outreach Committee and Marketing Report. It's going to be presented by Kim Yukich, who is the chair of the Outreach Committee. Our Outreach Committee does work around co-op events and other and the co-op's participation in other events and other marketing activities, depending on who's involved and what's going on at the co-op. And it's a really fun committee. So we have some long-serving members on that committee, but of course, if this is the kind of thing that you're interested in, it's a great committee to join. Pop your name in the chat and we'll get back to you. Anyway, Kim Yukich, take it away.
Thank you, Aviva. So the first item I want to talk about is our business partnership program. So we've spent some time and effort in getting some new businesses in town involved with our program. And we're working on getting an updated list posted in the store so shoppers can see who's involved in that program. Ryan's done a great job of putting together a new member packet, which we hand out to new members once they join the co-op. It's got a lot of useful information in it. And if you happen to become a member before we had the new member packet, feel free to ask when you're in the store if you'd like a copy of the packet. There's a lot of useful information in there. The roundup for relocation was a huge success, and I think we'll be talking about that later in the presentation. We're just about ready to launch a community survey about our relocation, and that will go out February 22nd. And again, you'll hear more about that later in the presentation. But outreach and marketing was involved as far as looking over the questions and making sure that survey is ready to go out to our community and asking the right questions so we can hear from all of you about what you want in the new space. We're continuing to seek new members for this awesome committee. So if you're interested, please reach out to myself or Ryan or anyone in the store when you're there and let them know if you'd like to help with this committee. The instituted a monthly email newsletter that actually happened before I came on board. So if someone wants to highlight that later on, but you've probably seen those emails where it talks about the cheese of the month, and there are blog posts as far as what's going on at the co-op. But I've found that to be a super useful tool. So we always know what's happening in the store. And if you, Aviva, can you go to the next slide? I don't know that I'm able to advance it. There, thank you. And as far as events, our first event of 2021 was actually the Summerfest. So due to COVID, we didn't have a whole lot going on the first part of the year, but we did set up a tent at Summerfest. That was a lot of fun. We got a lot of people stopping by, asking about the new space. We had some new co-op t-shirts for sale, which we still have some in the store. They turned out great. They also, Ryan worked with an artist and had a sticker designed. The kids loved those stickers, and I believe we still have some in the store. If you haven't gotten your co-op sticker, please ask about that the next time you're in. For the Summerfest, something new is we purchased a square, so we could take credit card payments at the Summerfest. And I think we did make a lot of sales using our new credit card machine, which we'll now be able to take to events outside of the store. Our open house was not the typical open house. It was virtual once again. It was a week-long event in September, where we highlighted a handful of our local farmers and vendors by creating and posting informational videos about each of them. Those vendors also contributed products, which were included in our prize raffle. And then the raffle, the proceeds from the raffle went to the neighborhood center. So we were able to raise about $237 for that. So I hope we'll be able to have the open house in person this year. We'll see how that goes. And then Holiday Baking Fest, same story. We had to come up with another idea instead of having that in person and having the tasting as we have done in the past. So we decided to raffle off a couple of baskets with products from the store. It was a huge success. We were able to raise about $673 for the neighborhood center. And I believe there was a write-up in the paper just last week about that. So anyway, we liked how that went as far as raising the money. We wish we could have been in person and doing our thing as far as having all the bakers contribute their goods. Hopefully we'll be back to that this year. But in the meantime, we made it work. And that's pretty much it for events during the past year. Looking forward to doing more in-person events in the coming months. Thank you, Aviva.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, you guys did a lot this year, even despite the challenges. Does anyone have any questions for Kim before we move on? Okay, obviously, of course, we can come back to those things later. Next is a report from our treasurer's report from Marcia Lisson, who has conscientiously been chairing this committee for something like 5 years. Is that
4
right,
years.
Mark? What?
4 years now.
4 years, and it's like 5 years, but the committee meets monthly, and any member is welcome to join in those meetings. Reach out to anyone in the store, or pop your name in the chat if you'd like to get a link to that on a regular basis, or even just, every now and then. It's really great to see this committee in action, and the way they kind of review, the way they actually review the financials and those documents as they get produced each month. So anyway, Marshall, here you go.
Yeah, and I'll just have you advance to the next slide, please.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to present a few tables of the important information I think is worth looking at. And you can kind of see our trend over the last 4 years. We're almost back to our largest total sales. I think there's one more year earlier that we were a little higher. But of course, with that, the cost of sales and go up as well. But our gross margin ratio is recovering a little bit. It's close to where we expect it to be. Of course, you can see our personnel costs are up a little bit, maybe, and that's something that, as Andy and his managers are going to be, working towards keeping that under control. Couple things worth noting at the bottom line. 2020, we had a revised balance sheet that came out after our first Paycheck Protection Program loan was forgiven and converted to a grant. And we had a second one in 2021 that also allowed us to give us a net profit for 2021 as well. So you want to go on to the next slide? And so we can kind of look at our total cash on hand, comparing it year to year. We got to be careful with looking at that. We have been collecting money for the roundup for the relocation, which sort of boosts our cash a little bit more than we would normally expect it to be. But we have been tapping into that as well as we're paying for things relative to the relocation expenses that we're incurring just to get to the point where we're at right now. Our inventory is up a little bit more than we would hope. And I know that Andy and his team are looking for ways to kind of keep that as, a little more in control. I think with the challenges of supply chain, we might be, having to deal with some things relative to that, and a little less comfortable as our accounts payable. The timing of this always, challenges us, but you can see that we recovered pretty well from 2019, and we're a little bit ahead of ourselves from last year at this time. It's still historically a little higher than we want to have it. Can you advance it? And then finally, looking at our assets and our liabilities, we seem to be in pretty good shape. Our current ratio is starting to creep back up, which is the ratio of assets to liabilities. And I did note that I had to revise 2020 based on that change in losing that liability associated with the Paycheck Protection Loan. But all in all, we're seeing a recovery from the COVID situation and the challenges, I think, as Andy will probably talk about in his GM report still relate to supply chain issues and the price pressures that are coming out as a result of some of the inflation issues. And I think, other than questions, that summarizes my report.
Thank you, Marshall. Anyone have any questions for Marshall? I know it's kind of a lot of data to digest pretty quickly. Happy to, go back a couple slides if you'd like, or if you have any questions, pipe up, or also if anything comes up. Yep.
Quick question. I'm assuming, Andy, are you going to touch on that inventory issue in your report? And then I won't ask a question. Or I'll ask you the question later.
No, inventory is not part of my presentation.
Yeah, could you sort of explain the dynamic there, what that means in terms of, so we got more stuff on the, so it's like we got too much of one thing, even though because of the delivery issues, we don't have other things on the shelf? Is that what's going on, or what?
Part of the increase in inventory over the course of the year is a little bit of the increased costs of goods. And also, yeah, I think that explains some of it, because if you ask the staff to look around, it doesn't seem like we have more stuff laying around. That doesn't seem to be it. It could be just because it's the end of 2021 and the end of our peak season for sales. So it could also be this particular year in particular. We still have some merchandise left over from that, general merchandise, gift ideas, some of those things. Some maybe just a little bit more higher priced items. That could be part of the explanation.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I see also, Randy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi. On that last slide, the current ratio, could you go to that slide for a minute, please? Yes. So from looking at co-ops as businesses, what is a target for a current ratio, acceptable range that you'd like to be in?
That's a good question. I think historically we've been right around the value of 2, just under 2. And so we had some challenges in 2019 and we recovered a bit in 2020, and we're kind of back up to where we need to be again. That's sort of just it's really kind of is a measure of our liquidity and our ability to pay short-term debt. And so anything above 1 theoretically, does that for us. But I think looking back at some of the data, we've been historically closer to 1.9.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? I'm not seeing any others.
I just want to add one thing. This is Robin McClellan. I'm on the Finance Committee as well. But I think the elephant in the room is the PPE loans. We were able to make it through and actually did fairly well in 2020 and 2021 because of the loans. We still aren't quite back up to where we would like to be in terms of making it through in 22. So we face some challenges in that area. But I just wanted you to know that we had thought about that as well.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, good point.
Agreed. Anyone else have comments or questions?
So do more shopping at the co-op, please.
Yes, that's the bottom line, basically. Okay, we'll move forward. Maybe. Oh, yes. Which food is the most stolen in the world? Most thieved food? Cheese, Starbucks cinnamon dolce regular foam venti cappuccino, maple syrup, or candy bars? It's pretty exciting. We can see these the results coming in. Marshall?
All right, we'll end the poll and we'll share the results. We stumped them.
Yes, it does seem that candy bars would be the most stolen. And it's interesting, I was wondering if this was by weight or items, I'm not really sure, but I'd just like to also, say this is Cam and Deb, this is not me, but it's, the answer is A, cheese. 4% of the world's cheese is stolen both by shoplifters and by huge heists straight from the manufacturers or from the delivery trucks to sell at a profit to shops and restaurants. I'm not sure where that data came from, but there it is. I thought it was maple syrup myself.
Yeah, there was that big heist of maple syrup up in Canada.
Yeah.
That was my second choice.
The theft from the Grand Strategic Maple Syrup Reserve, no less.
Yeah. Terrifying.
I don't know, stinky Limburger might be hard to get away with that.
I wonder if they also count, cheese food type products like American cheese. Anyway, that's so much to consider. More
Cheese
research
whiz.
ahead.
Cheese whiz.
Cheese wins. Okay, next up is the the annual report from our general manager. Andy, it's nothing personal about this picture here. I just thought it was really cute from our Facebook page. So you're up.
Agreed. Cuter than one of my own. All right, so part of my presentation is going to just be reiterating a little bit of what Marshall gave you. Here's another look at our overall sales for the year. It was a bit of a bounce back year, so we're up 9.5% from 2020. And here on the graph, you can see how our overall sales have moved through the years, and it's the best we've done sales-wise since 2016, 2017. Almost got there, but it was considering everything and how COVID has affected the industry. We're proud of our sales this year. Next slide. There was also a bit of a bounce back in terms of trends in our sales in the store. So as you may recall from the last presentation last year, there was a bit of change in buying trends. Last year we saw a lot of sales dedicated to whole foods and more home cooking going on, especially during the lockdown times. But this year, we saw a return of the historic trends, kind of favoring the more a growth in the more prepared foods areas. So deli, bakery, and grocery were the biggest growers on the year. Next slide.
What's HABA?
What's HABA?
Uh-huh.
Health and beauty aids.
Ah.
So we're talking about supplements and shampoos and soaps.
Thank you.
Despite being overall a big increase in sales on the year, we did experience some issues this year, especially towards the end of the year. We had a lot of issues with supply chain, as many people might be aware of. We had a lot of issues with stock and product. A big contributor to our problem was our biggest natural foods distributor, UNFI, has had a lot of staffing issues starting around September or so. Staffing issues with their warehouse, especially, causing a lot of a chain of problems that affected us. We experienced case caps. So basically, what we saw was our orders that we submitted were shortened to save on the warehouse's need for stocking. A lot of handful of canceled deliveries we experienced, manufacturer out of stocks. So that last quarter of the year, we really had a tough time getting the store fully stocked to where we'd like it to be, and made it tough on our customers to get the product that they want, and had a notable impact on our overall sales. So on the graph, you can see the green line, 2021, we were positive sales-wise over the previous year for most of the year, and then you see it cross down under in September, October, November. Just a bit noteworthy there. The next slide of you. Cost of goods, we've done a pretty good job continuing to improve our overall margin. Bounce back from a couple of years ago, so getting back towards our target in terms of margin, and that's a big thanks to our buyers' ability to get good deals for the co-op and get a product mix such that is minimizing spoilage and stuff like that. So doing a good job in that area. Next slide. Profitability. Our net profit, we were positive 46,000. And that is due in a very large part, as we mentioned earlier, to our paycheck protection loan that we received. That allowed us to stay net positive on the year despite being operationally in the negative. So the funds from that allowed us to, for one thing, remain net positive, and also allocate funds to dedicate to repayment of our 2019 renovation project, build up our savings account, and make lots of investments equipment wise and events like our new beer department that I'll touch on a little bit towards the end. Next slide. Here's some member owner data. As you may remember, at the start of the year, we implemented our big switch of our membership structure. Starting February, we no longer charge that $15 dues, and also in turn dropping the 2% base non-working discount. The result of that has been an increase in membership overall, 1,096 member owners, active member onlys, that's a monthly average. And that is on average, that's 67 more than the previous year. And also we signed up 216 new member households this year. The percentage of sales to members is just over 70%. And over the course of the year, the average member household spent $1,152. Next slide. And just touch a little bit on what our goals are for the year 2022. One thing that really comes to mind is a focus on profitability. And in 2022, we're very focused on doing that. We're not going to have another PPP to fall back on this year. So we got to do everything that we can to maximize sales and manage our costs. To that end, particularly to try and address the supply chain issues that we've had, we're looking at a new natural foods distributor. We just got in contact with a company in the Northeast called Chex, and we're hopeful that that can help fill in some of the holes in our supply chain that we've experienced. And we also have the brand new addition of a beer department, which is on the shelf now, and we're hopeful that the added revenue from that can give us the boost that'll help us get the income that we're looking for on the year. In turn, we made some some progress recently in managing labor and kind of cut down on some of our expenses so that we end the year net positive, operationally positive, and that's the goal. And just kind of want to reiterate, we're all very excited, both the board and the staff, about expansion and relocation. But I just want everyone to know that we are still dedicated to our store that we have here and now, and we're dedicated to our customers, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we can have continued success right here and now. Before I go to questions, I just want to thank the board of directors and all our committee members for their servants and guidance throughout the year. It's been a huge help and a privilege working with all those folks. Special thanks to members of the board who work on our expansion and relocation project. It's a real great opportunity that for our expansion and relocation to move along while I'm still able to operate the store. Another thanks to our first ever staff board member, Jesse, whose second term is ending. It was a real privilege being able to experience those two worlds come and meet, the world of the board and the world of staff, and see that kind of come together. And Jesse was a very active board member and took it on with enthusiasm. And so the new staff board member coming in has big shoes to fill. I want to thank the member owners of the co-op. I always say that the best part about working here is the people. And so it's a real pleasure and it makes it all worthwhile. I appreciate you guys. And of course, want to express appreciation towards the staff who make all of this work. So they have my gratitude as well.
Well, thanks, Andy. That was a good report. Nice way to cap it off. I'm going to go ahead and agree with your very final shout out to co-op member owners and shoppers. Noticing a lot of names on who's here tonight that we don't necessarily always see at annual meetings for whatever reason. It's great that so many of us are all here tonight together. Any questions for Andy on any of that?
Just a comment. I wanted to thank Andy. I've been working with Andy, been on the finance committee for about 10 years and worked with Andy throughout it. And it's just really great to have him as manager. And it's this report is tribute to what he's done there. I also wanted to mention that not since as long as I've been a member of the co-op, because I've been a member of the co-op longer than anyone except one person at the meeting. And we weren't looking at beer back then, but we've talked about beer for almost 30 years. And it's really, we're making changes that we've thought of for many, many years and have never done. So it's challenging, and we're moving forward in ways I never thought we would.
Thanks, Robin. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
There's a question in the chat that I could just read out. Someone wonders, without dues, how do you know if someone leaves the area or otherwise is no longer a quote member?
We have a small workaround. So we say no dues, but the reality is we charge 1 penny in dues, and that is for exactly that purpose. So we are tracking, and we know the last time someone has renewed, that is our marker for that. So that's how we track.
Great question. Anybody else? Thanks for catching that, Megan. I didn't see that because I saw the comment from Jesse. Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, and plus we know for the first 10 years, right? Because it's the members still pay into the member ownership, right, Andy?
You can, but we prefer to track it through the fee. Yeah, right. Because after that, then we don't have it.
Right.
We don't have eyes on renewal any other way. So that's why we went that route.
So just to clarify, then you're asking people to renew every year on their anniversary.
Yeah, we need the members' permission to renew. Renewal is not automatic.
Okay, cool.
Well, I wasn't aware of that either.
We need to keep track of membership and people who leave because we have obligations to try to get them to, they have a year to get their shares back, redeem their shares.
Yeah, they either redeem their shares or donate them to the co-op.
And if they don't do that in a year, they are donated to the co-op.
Okay, that clarifies that, I'm pretty sure. Anybody else? Okay, keep in mind, you can always ask later. We'll move forward here. Another question, another trivia. Which countries have the lowest meat consumption in the world? Is it A, India and Bangladesh? B, Argentina and the United States? And I'm gonna say, I think this is per capita. C, Norway and Russia, or D, China and New Zealand? I believe still coming in. Everybody answered this question correctly. Oh, maybe not.
Somebody asked if that includes fish, and I don't know if we know the answer to that.
I would defer to Deb and Kim.
It would include fish if it's.
It does. Okay, well, too late. The answering's done, I guess. Polling is done.
Okay, are you sharing the results, Marshall?
Yeah, I am.
Yep.
Okay, my answer key here says India and Bangladesh, and there's no little story there with that. I think that's pretty clear. Okay. Now I think is the report, I think that maybe most anticipated, I don't know, or is up there for sure. An update on the relocation expansion project. And we have Karen Page for this. Take it away, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks everyone who's gone ahead of me for your reports. I enjoyed listening. And I looked for animated fireworks, but couldn't find any. So you have to, we'll live with static fireworks. But the exciting news that happened in 2021 was that in July, we received announcement that our application to the Downtown Revitalization Initiative will be awarded $1.659 million. Yay! Thank you. Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my colleagues on the project working group, David, Aviva, and Andy Rowden. We've been meeting weekly, at least. Numerous emails get exchanged every week, texts, and there are lots of partner meetings as well. So shout out to all of you for joining the team and your good work. And thank you for putting up with my gentle reminders, otherwise known as nagging. But we're all working towards great ends. I also want to say thanks to Deb Rowden when we were meeting in person on Sunday mornings. She always supplied us with home baked goodies. So that was always a treat. So it was in July. Go ahead, Aviva, advance the slide that we learned that our project would be receiving what we asked for from New York State. And where's the slide? Next. Haha. Okay, so we have been busy and it's all sort of the behind the scenes work. And where are we currently? We are in negotiations with the property owner of 63 Market Street, formerly known as the Aubuchon Mall. We will be looking to rename that whole area once we take acquisition of it. In the meantime, and what does that mean? That for the background, to come up with a purchase price offer, we have ordered and received an appraisal as well as a property condition assessment for 63 Market Street. We have also secured a mortgage and some of the revolving loan that we will need for financing this project. We have also established and are in the process of establishing partnerships with a number of agencies. And I'm listing them here just to let you know that our project is bigger than ourselves. That we have many players and many large organizations like helping us, and they want us to be successful. The New York State Homes and Community Renewal, that is a division of New York State, and that is actually where the DRI funds are coming from. Cooperative Development Institute, based in Massachusetts, is our fiscal sponsor. We entered into a 2-year agreement back in May, and they are acting, we can use their 501c3 status to be able to accept charitable donations. It also allows us to apply for grants that are only open to nonprofits. Cooperative Fund of New England is our mortgage and lender, and also some of the revolving loan lender. Oh, back up. Cooperative Development Institute also helped us with the consumer survey that you have heard a little bit about, and I'll talk about a little more later. Small Business Development Center in Canton. Michelle Collins, I have a shout out to her later on in this slide, but she has been exceptional. She has worked hard with the numbers that we have provided, lending assistance and expertise for us to come up with the 5-year financial projections. Those are the numbers, from the day we open, on 5 years out. And all this information is needed when we apply for mortgages and loans. And Michelle has been very responsive, turning around 2 different versions of the documents on the same day so that we can meet deadlines. Empire State Development is a New York State agency that has pointed us to other kinds of funding available to us, and that Rise Community Capital, they work as consultants to Empire State Development. So there's an ask out there for funding, and we won't know about that until another year. But anyway, our project, again, the reason for this list is to let you know that our project is known in New York State at high levels, and they want to see us be successful. National Cooperative Grocers is an organization we've been trying to tap into for years, and through the Cooperative Fund of New England, who's holding our mortgage, basically did an introduction, and we are in conversation now with National Co-op Grocers for 2 things. One, to become members of that organization, but also the second is to tap into their design and project development team. That's a fee for service, but they have done this. They have done these expansion projects, hundreds of them across, they have lent their expertise across the country. So lots of good lessons and best practices to tap into there. And also store design. Clarkson University, thank you for letting us use your Zoom tonight, but also specifically, we tapped into Eric Backus and his team to conduct an energy audit on 63 Market, and then also help us design some energy efficient mechanical systems for the new building. So lots of those partnerships, they're all, each one of those represents, dozens of meetings. Again, the project team has been busy on that background stuff. Something else we're also have done over the past year is explored Plan B options. In case 63 Market doesn't come through, we have looked into alternatives. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So the other, you've heard mentioned a little bit about this. We have developed in partnership with Cooperative Development Institute, a community survey, and that is a series of questions that will go out to membership. We need input not only from the membership, but we also want a community-wide input. We want to know why people don't shop at the co-op, and what everybody wishes in the new space. So there will be a clickable ad starting in North Country Now, February 22nd through March 15th. You will receive emails and social media posts, and there'll be a couple chances to win $50 co-op gift card. The survey is anonymous, but if you want to enter the drawing, then you have to add your contact information. And as the Rowden family has been stellar. Thank you to Sam Rowden, who is currently a SUNY Potsdam graduate student, and he has been lending his assistance on this project. So please look for that starting next week. All right, next slide. Paying for it all. Okay, so the total project budget, as we wrote in our DRI application, is around 3 million. It could be significantly more, slightly more. We're not certain yet until we actually have engineered drawings and can get costs for everything. And given that other DRI projects in town that are a little further along than ours, their anticipated expenses are more than what they actually thought. Cost of goods, cost of materials, the story. Just a reminder, contrary to what some recent newspaper articles have said, the DRI funds cannot be used to purchase the building. Okay, that's on us, the co-op. The DRI funds are for the renovation of that building. Initially, we thought we would have to front the whole 1.659 million of New York State and then invoice New York State for reimbursement, but that's not true. We can actually break it up into 4 chunks, about $450,000 each, and then raise that money, spend that money, invoice New York State, get reimbursed. So hence, that's why we're looking for revolving loans as opposed to have to borrow the whole 1.659 million up front. Types of money that we're looking at, grants. We have 2 grants out there pending, totaling $165,000. Donations. Thank you for all your 42 cents and 27 cents at the register. Those have added up over the past year. So far, we're at about $23,000 collected. We had an initial goal of 20,000. We're sort of pushing that up. So we have a little more walking around money. And what have those funds gone for? We've paid for the appraisal, paid for the property condition assessment. We have paid deposits and origination fees on some of the loans. Without that money, we really would be hard pressed right now to get any of these, due diligence items accomplished. So thank you for your, thank you. Also, the fiscal sponsorship, as I mentioned, with Cooperative Development Institute, that's a new mechanism for us, and that'll enable us to receive charitable donations and again, apply for those grants that are only open to nonprofit organizations. Because remember, we're a business, not a nonprofit. We're also looking at loans, commercial loans from different sources, but more importantly, member owner loans. And we have already received $217,500 in member owner loan pledges. And we haven't even started the fundraising campaign. So thank you. Next slide, Aviva. And so toward that end, we have a fabulous fundraising committee, and these are the members of that. We thank you. I thank you for your dedication so far. Your work is just going to begin, though. We will be launching the fundraising effort as soon as we have a closing date on the purchase of 63 Market Street. And again, that number we already have in pledges over $217,000. And it's important for you to know too that we have 100% board member participation either in donation or loan pledges. So we hope to start that fundraising campaign as soon as next as early as next month, as soon as we have that closing date finalized. And when you receive the information to either make a loan or a donation or a combination of both, we're hopeful and thankful for whatever you can contribute to the project. It's really going to be great. Thank you.
Thanks for the recap, Karen, and also for all of your wrangling that you've done through the past year on this little tiny project. It certainly can be overwhelming at times, but it's also super exciting. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Karen? I see some great job, Karen, in what David said in there. Any other questions or comments for Karen about the expansion, relocation, either funding it or where we are in that process?
What will be happening with the businesses that are currently located at 63 Market?
There are tenants in a portion of the building that we will need, and we will honor their current leases. Nobody's getting kicked out. And occupants in the other portions of the building, we need them to stay and we need them to sign on again, because their rental income will help us keep the building, help pay the mortgage and the expenses. Our renovation is for part of the building. With the we're buying a building larger than we need currently, but in the future that may change and we may be able to grow into that space.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, just to be clear, the co-op won't be occupying the entire building, at least at the outset. So. Great question. Anybody else? Okay.
Actually, I could just make a point.
Good.
Having a little bit of flexibility with how large, our renovation is going to give us a little bit of breathing room if we run into a whole bunch of cost overruns. If one way to make the project happen is to scale back on the size of the new building, well, we'll do what we have to do, but having that flexibility is good.
Good point. That is true. That when the project was designed, it was fairly quickly put together, and that was in another world before. It was pre-COVID, so everything's different now. So it will be good to have that flexibility as things take shape, for sure. Anybody else?
Question in the chat about 24 Elm, and the plan is to sell 24 Elm when we are in our new location.
Yep.
Will the new location also incorporate a bakery?
Yes, there will be a bakery.
Okay.
It won't be a wood-fired oven as the carriage house is now.
Right.
So yes, there will be a beautiful wood-fired carriage house on the market soon.
Nobody asked when or how long. We told New York State 2 years.
Good question and answer, Karen. Holly says she'll miss the wood-fired oven. We all will. And we can hope that somebody else will have an awesome business using the carriage house.
Are you going to do anything with it in the meantime while you're selling it? Rent it or something like that? Or were you just going to try and put it on the market and not worry about that management headache?
The latter.
That's a great question. I don't know that we'll have capacity to run another business through this. but there'd be, I think the co-op would be willing to entertain any ideas or options that anybody else would be willing to put on the table for sure.
But we do have the sale of that 24 Elm in our projections. That
Yeah.
is part of our package.
For sure. Okay. Right, it's good conversation there in the chat.
Don't know how much yet, Abby Lee.
Yep. Oh, bye, Deborah. Okay, we will move on now and continue the conversation in the chat. For sure, feel free to pipe in with additional questions as we move forward. Oh, this is me. I'm up. So there it is. That's our annual report as presented. I wanted to make a note about that change to the member owner structure. I'm glad that Andy went into it a little bit in his report, removed that $15 annual membership dues and also that 2% member discount. And we replaced it with a different structure for member rewards, but that different structure is still being built up. So there are member sales, and the staff is working towards building, additional member incentives, punch cards, those kinds of things. And that will roll out through this year. And the results of that change over this past year does seem that we did indeed remove a barrier for membership to people. As Andy said, we have 67 more average members to the co-op. But it also feels like it was kind of a bad year to remove that 2% discount. It doesn't seem like very much money. It's not really, but it seems like a pretty bad year to have done that when costs have risen so considerably for families this year. And one of the big impetuses for this move to a larger store and our stronger buying power is to be able to find ways to make the food we sell and healthy food choices more accessible to more people in our community. So it's a little disheartening to move temporarily backwards in that way. But it's still great to see more people embracing the co-op with, Andy said, I don't remember, Andy, how many you said, new member families. So that's pretty exciting. So as I said, there will be, some additional financial sort of incentives for member owners, but of course, another important reason to be a member of the co-op is to participate in what, sometimes we overlook that really vital part of our lives, which is the source of our food. And these past couple of years have really shown us both the power and the fragility of the many systems that we rely on, including our food system. It's highlighted how important it is that, while we do participate in this multinational food system, we also maintain some control and work with our local and nourish our local and regional systems, including all of our producers, wholesalers, retailers, and all of that. So, as we emerge from the pandemic and build our new and larger presence in the community with our expanded store, this is really a great time to consider lending your voice to the co-op board. If you're interested in serving, please reach out next time you're in the store or in the chat, or grab any of us that you happen to see. So, overall, it's been a really challenging year for everybody, and an exciting year at the co-op. As we've just seen, there's a lot of things that have been accomplished. The co-op is relatively sound. Thanks again, as Andy and Marshall pointed out, to that payroll protection program, but also the hard work of the staff, and especially Andy Pete's incredible dedication and ability to white knuckle it through any type of crisis or situation that's going on. And of course, that ongoing support and patronage of all of us members and shoppers as well. The future of the co-op in a new, larger, and more suitable location is well on its way. It's super exciting. It's been an honor to serve as board president for this year. I look forward to passing those reins on for next year. But we're going to move on to sort of the election things. I wanted to thank all of our outgoing board members, David Katz, for his great work on our projections for the new store. Jesse's been this incredible first employee member, board member. As we've all talked about, her participation has been really great, and it's been super important. Deborah Massell's great work on our fundraising committee, and we will continue to tap into her as well. Thank you to our new board candidates, Erica Lee and Lauren Smith. I'm excited to work with you guys in the future. Super exciting to have a contested election at the employee level. Thank you, Mike Horst, Corey Foster, Kestine Pena, for really caring about where you work enough to volunteer your time in this different way. And as well as thanking our current board members who have chosen to run in the election: Karen Page, David Bradford, Camille Frazier, Jim Fryer. Of course, the rest of our current board members: Marshall, Katie McLaughlin, Megan Lane, Kim Yukich, Andy Rudden. Board service is a big job. It's a big commitment. And I'm so grateful. We're working with all of you guys, and pleased that you've all agreed to lend your ideas and efforts to the co-op coming along. I think that's it for the annual report. Are there any more questions? Any questions that anyone wants to raise before we accept the annual report and do that? Yes, I see Shelley's raising her hand.
Yeah, a couple of things. You talked about the change in the membership structure and the loss of the 2% and the $15. And to those of us that paid off that $15 a year long ago, it's kind of like, okay, we're not saving anything by that. So I hope that the board might put a little more thought.
Yeah, that's okay. I've had a lot of it. I'll go back to it, so.
Uh-oh.
That's okay.
Hey, Eleanor, can you mute?
Well, okay, that would be all right.
You should be able to mute her, Aviva.
Yeah, there we go. Good call. So Shelley, just a quick reminder that while you did pay off your $10 a year, previously you were still paying an annual $15 a year as dues. So we kept that, that $100 equity.
Okay.
So you pay the $10 each year for 10 years, you have $100 of equity in the store, but previously each year you would additionally pay $15 as dues. And so that has been removed. So there's still that.
I misunderstood.
Does that make it a little more clear?
So there are no more dues to be a member?
Correct. You are a fully vested member with your equity having been paid off, except for every year you have to pitch in a penny. So you're still around.
Well, I guess I can handle that. So the second thing that I wanted to, I don't know if it's a question or a statement or what, but if we're one of the big points of moving to the new location, which I'm very 50-50 about myself, and I'm accepting of the fact that we'll probably do it. But one of those is that we will be able to apparently store more things and have better buying power that way. But that means that that inventory number we were looking at earlier is going to be significantly higher. And I'm imagining that the finance committee has looked at that and factored that in, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Like if we're actually going to realize some savings from having moved there, and hopefully more sales, more exposure, but the savings of having better buying power means higher inventory. So just throwing that in the mix.
Yeah, is it Marshall or Andy, do you want to comment on that for Shelley?
Andy, you want to handle that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, the cost of goods is part of our projections that we have that the Small Business Association helped us draw up. So that's all part of our business plan. That's the cost of goods is certainly included there in line with the sales from them.
So I might be able to help you there, Shelley. So one of the things that I don't anticipate that our ratio of inventory to sales will change much. So we may be able to store some more things, but we also will be able to get some better pricing. So this, I think, will balance it out. And, you know, and I too was a skeptic of this for quite a while, and I've looked fairly carefully at it. I don't think there's any way of predicting exactly what's going to happen. My experience has been that when somebody gives you $1.6 million, you have a little bit of time to figure it out, which is the good news. But I think the idea of increasing, so what you're talking about isn't necessarily an increase in inventory. We'll obviously have an increase in inventory on the shelves, but I don't think we'll have an older inventory. I think our inventory turnover should be about the same. I don't anticipate that changing. And that would affect, is what I'm thinking was happening with our increased inventory number. But that also could have been, but only part of it is that, part of it is the increased cost of goods.
Well, okay, but.
And, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shelley.
So, I mean, if those numbers are going to stay fairly balanced, then that is predicated on having more sales. And, you know, is that what you're basing that on?
Absolutely. Our sales projections are significantly higher. This is from a study that was done, a market study that was done while I was on the board and treasurer a few years ago. And we'll see. They know more than I do about that stuff.
Let's hope.
We
Okay,
also, in our projections, did not use 100% of those projected sales. We took 85%, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was, and that was another important thing. A lot of those projections, and what gave me, which assuaged my concerns quite a bit, was that they were pretty conservative. And so I think we should be able to make it. And I think, on the other hand, I don't think we can make it where we are now. So it's not like there's a choice of not moving. I think we really need to move forward and do something. We can't, it would be nice to stay the same, but the world isn't. And so we need to move forward too. Kicking and screaming if necessary.
Sorry. This is Jessie LaRose. I'm the buyer at the co-op, and yeah, just to kind of reiterate what you guys are saying, it definitely, you know, having buying power is significant, and it's going to be a huge thing for us to finally be able to take advantage of that, because in our current space, we just don't have the space to store things. There's so many times where, you know, I could get us some better pricing on some things, but I just simply can't because there's nowhere to put it. So that alone, I mean, that's going to make a huge impact on our ability to, you know, lower prices and make things more affordable for our members, which is definitely part of our mission and part of our ends policy. And, you know, like you were saying, Shelley, yes, the cost of goods will go up, but so will the sales. So, I mean, it all kind of balances out, and I agree with Robin that in our current situation, we can't make it. Like we need all of this extra space to be able to do business and do it effectively.
Great discussion there. Anybody else have anything to add or questions?
Holly Chambers has her hand up.
Okay.
Yes, my hand is up.
Yep.
I just wanted to comment that although I have been in the past 50-50 about the move, if only because of the beautiful gardens we'll be leaving behind. But one thing that has helped me to accept it is that this will be a much safer working environment. I mean, this 2-story, you know, running stuff up and down the stairs stuff is just not healthy for the employees.
And
No,
two
that's
buildings
true.
running across the icy parking lot too.
Yeah, and on top of that, you know, just the inefficiencies from it all, like not just the health, you know, and the fact that our two buildings are disconnected, because like Andy said, that is a real thing that we're experiencing and we have been for ever, you know. But it's also just the inefficiencies. I mean, you know, when we only have a couple cashiers on the floor and they're trying to stock the store, but everything is upstairs, you know, they have to leave to do that. So yes, not only is it, you know, difficult physically, but it just isn't really great for our bottom line. Makes everything much more difficult. So yeah, it's going to be great to be able to have the efficiencies that this new building is going to provide for us.
Yeah, great point, Holly. Great discussion, you guys. It's true. Anybody else? Oh, I'm looking at the chat. Abby has brought up and incentivizing not using credit cards, a cash discount. We talk about that at the board level about once a year. And those conversations will continue. You know, there's that, yeah. We'll invite you next time, Abby. We have that conversation.
Well, the best way around that, even if you have to use your credit card, is just swipe it once and put all that money on a co-op card, right? And use that each time. And better yet, bring a checkbook and put that money on a co-op card.
Yep, the co-op account system is super convenient. Yeah.
Do debit cards cost as much as credit or the same, or
The co-op account?
debit cards?
Oh, Andy, you want to take that question?
I haven't been able to nail that down yet. We've jumped back and forth. We'll trying to know if credit is cheaper than debit or the other way around. I think it's flip flop. I'm not certain. They both have significant costs to the co-op, and so very strongly encourage that route of putting your money on your member account and spend your grocery dollars out of that balance when you make trips to the co-op.
Well, that was another benefit of joining National Cooperative Grocers was better credit card rates through their, you know, larger memberships.
Google Pay and Apple Pay are pretty much the same as credit cards. They're just linked to the credit cards. They might have an extra fee that because nobody does nothing for free.
Right.
I heard that there's banks actually charge a business a fee for handling cash, right? So even that's not free. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
Our bank does not.
Oh, good.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Okay. What's next? Okay, that was the annual report. Can I hear a motion to accept the annual report as it was presented? I believe any member can make a motion.
So moved.
Believe that was that Shelley?
Holly.
Oh, Holly. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second from Shelley.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Or waving. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. And I am not seeing any, oops, sorry. Whoa, whoa. That's just scroll through here. And okay, the annual report has been accepted. What's next? We have another trivia question. Which country consumes the most coffee per person? Is it A, Java? Is it B, Finland? Is it C, Brazil? Is it D, whichever country Holly Chambers is in?
I just have to say that fourth answer is amazing. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it were the answer.
Shockingly, the answer is not D. It is wait, we're good, right? It is Finland. Finns average 26.5 pounds per year compared to Americans 10 pounds. And that 10 pounds, I guess, does include the weighted average with Holly's consumption in there. So Finland wins. It's Finland for the win. Okay, we'll now proceed with the election, right? So, you know, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but every year Vanessa Bittner works tirelessly to make sure that these elections go off and they comply with our board policy manual and they represent our members. And she's been validating proxy authorizations right up until this afternoon and will continue to do so, you know, any provisional votes that came in tonight. Thank you, Vanessa. So I believe Katie, are you proposing these people or am I proposing these people?
The tally.
For the, are we ready for the tally? Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So just to clarify, for 3-year terms, we have David Bradford, Karen Page, Jim Fryer, Lauren Smith. For a 2-year term, Camille Frazier, and a 1-year term, Erica Lee. We are apparently, I'm going by the script that was left to me for last year, obligated to call for any nominations from the floor, which I'm sort of confused about because people could vote for them from the floor, but we don't have a quorum of members. So I don't think they could actually be voted on. I mean, they couldn't actually win the election, but if there were any nominations from the floor, we would consider them. So are there? No. Okay. Hearing none, we'll now vote on our Class C seats for the Board of Directors. And earlier in the chat, somebody asked, what is Class C? I can't remember what C stands for. I think co-op, maybe. That's just our regular board members. And the reason there's a Class C is because there is a Class E, which stands for employee. So, and that's a different election. So for our Board of Directors, Katie, what is the number of votes for Erica Lee?
Erica Lee got 118 votes.
Okay. What is the number of votes for Lauren Smith?
Lauren Smith got 120 votes.
120. What is the number of votes for Karen Page?
Karen Page got 121 votes.
What is the number of votes for David Bradford?
David Bradford got 118 votes.
What is the number of votes for Camille Frazier?
Camille Frazier got 120 votes.
What is the number of votes for Jim Fryer?
Jim Fryer got 119 votes.
Okay. All of these people were elected to the terms I set out earlier. Congratulations to all of you. It's very exciting. Thank you. Thank you everyone for voting as well. These are good, solid tallies. Okay, we will now hear the results of the election to the Class E seat on the Board of Directors. So that would be running for the position were Mike Corse, Corey Foster, and Cassadine Pena. As I said earlier, this is amazing that there is a contested election for this board seat. So Katie, what is the number of votes for Mike Corse?
Mike Corse received 9 votes.
Okay, Corey Foster?
Corey Foster received 8 votes.
Okay, and Cassadine Pena?
Cassadine received 2 votes.
Okay, so our new Class E member is Mike Corse. That is exciting. Mike's not here, right? No. Okay. And he has been elected to a 1-year term as our Class E director. Excellent. Exciting. I'm looking forward to working together with all of you. Thank you. Is there any other business comments, announcements that need to be brought before the membership before we move on to the raffle? Anybody? Okay, raffle time. So we're gonna raffle off a few items. I don't know what they are. Andy, we're gonna do them one at a time. Kim Yukich has put all of our names, not all of our names, I think board members are out, into the wheel of something. So Andy, what's our first item?
A co-op branded t-shirt.
For a t-shirt.
The wheel is spinning. And the winner is Terry. Is Terry still here?
Terry is.
Thank you.
All right.
Congratulations.
I'll wear it with pride, right along with my co-op shopping bags
Awesome.
that I bring not only to the co-op, but other places. But
Thank-
now, but you know, there you go.
Excellent. Okay, Andy, what is item number 2?
A co-op branded shopping bag.
The wheel is spinning. Winner is Ruth Baltus.
All right, Ruth. Woo. I'm not sure if Ruth is still here, maybe. She was definitely here earlier. All right. And Andy, what is item number 3?
We have 4 prizes or 5?
What do you got?
We got 5. We're giving them all away.
Okay. Well,
Next
what's item
one is-
number 2? Or number 3?
Winner's choice of a delicious chocolate bar.
Chocolate. Okay, who's winner number 3? Kim.
Spinning, spinning, spinning. Lisa.
Lisa. Woo. I wasn't sure which Lisa that was. I'm not
I
sure.
think there's only one.
I
signed
mean,
in.
yeah, but I didn't know what Lisa it was.
Oh, right. It just says Lisa's iPad or something like that.
Yeah. Does anyone know who that was by any chance? Lisa's iPad.
You might have to spin again. What do you think? If nobody knows who it was. Just
All right.
I think Lisa might have left off, but okay.
spin again.
Shall we spin again?
Yeah, for the people, the hardcore people who are still here.
Exactly. Vanessa.
Vanessa, congratulations.
Yay.
Okay, what's item number 4, Andy?
Item number 4 is another delicious bar of chocolate.
Right. Spinning, spinning, spinning.
Do not, this person will not have to share with Vanessa. You each get your own. It's very exciting.
Sonia.
Woo!
Oh my gosh, thank you.
And we have one more item. What is the final item, Andy?
It's a $25 gift certificate to the co-op.
All right,
Wow.
there we go.
Grand prize.
Eleanor.
Woo! Eleanor Rosenthal. Excellent. Okay, these prizes will be available at the register. Is that correct, Andy?
Yeah.
All right. Don't think there's any further business. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Wait, before we do that, I just wanted to thank everybody again for joining us. Next year, we'll do it in person, hopefully, and I can't wait. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Who seconded?
Susan.
Susan.
Excellent. Oh, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Bye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. See you again soon at the co-op, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Aviva.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Aviva.
much.